Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this week's edition of Tina Talks Finance. This month's theme is identity protection, and today I'll talk to you about what to do after your identity has been stolen. You may notice that several of these steps are the same as the unemployment fraud episode, but the lists are just different enough that I'm going to address them separately. If you missed the unemployment fraud episode, just search hashtag Tina Talks Finance to find all the previous episodes. So when your identity is stolen, you'll probably feel a lot of feelings. You'll be mad, you'll be sad, you'll feel violated, you may even feel stupid and believe it's your fault that it was stolen. It's okay to feel the way you feel out loud, but please add urgency to the list. Because if you don't act quickly, then the problem could get worse. So this list is meant for actual identity theft, not just for an alert that your information is on the dark web. The dark web alert means start watching your finances close, and your credit report more thoroughly, but there's no need to do this full list yet. If you notice that something's wrong, that's the time to spur into action and start to do all of these steps. So, what are the steps? The first step is to alert law enforcement. And sometimes this is hard for families. If it was a family member that stole your identity, this may not be something that you want to do. I would say that it stops the identity theft from happening again. However, I understand that family dynamics sometimes are such that it doesn't feel right to file a police report, but you will need your police report to go forward with for most of the next steps. The next thing to do is report the theft to your credit cards and anywhere you put your money. So a bank, credit union, debit card, web bank, wherever you park your money when you're not using it, they need to know to be on the lookout. So also report the fraud to the Federal Trade Commission. You can just Google Federal Trade Commission or FTC. And they have a step-by-step instruction manual of what to do and who to let know, and even have a checklist. But I wanted you to know to go there, because if you don't know to go there, then no checklists in the world are going to help you. Also, report the fraud to your state attorney general's office. Most state attorney generals are keeping track of what's happening and where, and sometimes some states will even investigate those identity thefts because it is happening in their jurisdiction. Also, make sure you contact the credit bureaus, and that needs to be pretty high on the list. So all of these things should happen within that first day. So contact the credit bureaus, put a fraud alert on your credit report, so let them know that there's been fraud and that you want that alert. Also, you might want to freeze your credit. What this does is it ensures that no one can pull your credit unless you lift the freeze for 24 hours. And when I say 24 hours, it's not exactly 24 hours. It's for the day that you lift that freeze. Don't forget your passcode, because you've alerted the credit bureaus that there's fraud. So they are going to be super vigilant, and this is to protect your information. So if you lose that passcode, it is very difficult to get another one. You will need to prove your identity on paper. You will probably have to send them several of your personal documents, because they want to make sure that they're giving that information to the right person. Also, don't share that passcode with anyone, including spouses, because you can't control what you don't completely own. So make sure that you just really hold that tight. That is a very, very personal thing. And so no one should have the passcode to lift your freeze. Also, you will want to lift that freeze before you apply for credit, or just let your lenders know to let you know when they are planning to pull your credit report so that you can lift that freeze. And you can lift the freeze on apps, the annualcreditreport.com app. You can do that by calling the credit bureaus, and you can also log in to annualcreditreport.com and lift those freezes. And while you have them on the phone, request a copy of your credit report. You're entitled to a free one. anytime that you have fraud. And right now, they're completely free for anyone at any time. So I would encourage you all, because we are in the midst of a financial crisis, to keep a close eye on your credit report to make sure that it's all information that you recognize. If you see anything, especially look for addresses that are obscure, that you've never lived or your family members have never lived, or names that you've never used. If your name is Linda Davis and your credit report says Susan Smith, you probably want to look into that to find out who Susan Smith is. So if you request a copy of that credit report, look at it in depth. Make sure you know every tiny little thing that is on that credit report. And if you see something that's unusual, you will probably want to reach out to that creditor. Also, which brings me to my next thing, alert your creditors. Call your credit card companies, your mortgage company, your auto loan company, your insurance companies. And also, and then the next thing is, if it's in the middle of a pandemic like we are right now, or any type of economic unemployment, when unemployment is high, if your identity has been stolen, you also want to make sure that the Oklahoma Employment Security Commission, OESC, is alerted as well. And that's in Oklahoma, but any state that you live in, make sure that your unemployment office knows that your identity was stolen, and they will take some extra steps in case someone files unemployment in your name. Next, call the IRS, especially if we're in the middle of tax time, because if we're in tax season, they could file your tax return and receive and put their information, their bank account information in, and then you're without your tax return. Also, again, alert your insurance company, especially your medical insurance, because we don't want them using our medical insurance. And remember that identity theft is also important when there's been a death. And a lot of people, even people that teach identity theft classes, have forgotten in that moment of grief to follow these steps after a death in the family. So first thing, report it to the Social Security office, report it to the IRS to make sure that no one's filing their final tax return. Also, let the credit bureaus know, and you probably want to do a credit freeze for them as well. That way, if they've worked their whole lives to have a stellar credit score, you don't want after death for that to be ruined for them. Are there any questions? Give you just a few seconds to type those in if you have any questions. Okay, so we will move on. So just want you to remember, if your identity is stolen, that it's not the end of the world. Your heart will still beat, you can still build credit, you can come back from that, but it is going to be a pain, and it does take some work to make sure that the problem doesn't get worse. So thank you for joining me for this edition of Tina Talks Finance. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more, please search hashtag Tina Talks Finance to view previous recordings. I hope you'll join us next Thursday at 10 a.m. Central as we continue our series on identity theft. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.